what's up? John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com, and today we are going to be talking about my top 10 list of C# books. I've done a lot of these top 10 lists. If you want to check them out, you can check them out here where I've done series on the top 10 C++ books, top 10 Java books, and you can check out my playlist of all the book reviews I've done. I've done a lot. I read about 2 to 3 books a day. If you really want to get my book reviews and have me tell you what books are good and which ones to read, you should definitely check those out. And those are non-technical books, most of them. But today we're going to be talking about technical books. We are going to be talking about the one that has been requested probably more than anything else, which is what are my top 10 C# books. So, a little bit of a caveat here before we get into this. And some of you are noticing my shirt here and you want to get one of these shirts. Well, the shirt is not available yet, but it will be soon. This is a prototype of the shirt that will be one of the official Simple Programmer shirts that says Trust the Process. You can check out the video on trusting the process here. Actually, check out the playlist on trusting the process if you want to know what that means. That's sort of a inside thing for the Simple Programmer subscribers that understand what it means when I say trust the process. But today, let's talk about C#. And before I get into this, let's take a moment here and discuss something here. So I am not currently programming in C#. It is my favorite programming language. Pretty much. I'm going to have to say yes, of all the programming languages, I like C# the best. It was just such a fun language to program and just so many good memories. But I am giving you a combination of some of the books that I have enjoyed that I've thought have been really good books that I have read, and some of the books that I have rounded up from other people that have said these are the best C# books for a beginner or for an intermediate or an advanced developer today. So not all of them are my recommendations, but I wanted to gather up a combination of what I like and what I think that is popular today so you can find the best C# books. And I think I've done a pretty good job of it. Of course, I'm not perfect. If you think that I could use a little bit of help, feel free to leave a comment below this video and let me know if I missed something or if one of these books sucks, to put it lightly. Let's get into it. All right, so no particular order here. The first one is Head First C#. You can check it out here. And this is a book that is in the Head First series. I've always liked the Head First series. It's not my particular best way of learning myself, but for a lot of people, the Head First series gives you a different way of looking at things. And it's a good starter book to go through, especially if you have a hard time sitting down and reading something highly technical. It keeps your interest. That's one of the best things that Head First does. And it does it usually in a very unique way, very visual, very different way of learning a programming language. I especially recommend the Head First design patterns for getting your head around the design patterns. Next, we have C# 5.0 in a nutshell, the definitive reference. So I was looking for a good reference book for C# to recommend. This one seems to be a good one. It does cover up to C# 5.0. I don't think there's a C# 6 version of this book yet, at least at the time of recording this video, but when that one comes out, then that would be the one that I would recommend. In fact, as I'm recording this video, I believe C# 7 is actually on the heels. We have language development accelerating at a very rapid pace. It's a little bit alarming, and there's some pretty crazy awesome stuff in C# 11. Or C# 7. I was just looking at that. So there's some pretty interesting stuff. The language has really been evolving with tuples, and you can pretty much do anything you want in the language. Anyway, I would highly recommend checking out C# 5.0. in a nutshell, the definitive reference, because that is a good reference book. It's one of those books that might be good to have on your shelf as a reference guide. It's always good to have a reference guide for your language. Next, we have one. This one is one of my personal favorites. Honestly, it's probably my favorite. It's C# In Depth by Jon Skeet. Now, here you can check out the book here. I have to tell you, Jon Skeet is pretty awesome. He's the Chuck Norris of Stack Overflow. I actually got to interview him in my How to Market Yourself as a Software Developer course, and actually talk to him and ask him about his experiences with Stack Overflow and his thoughts on branding and building a reputation online. He's a pretty cool guy. In addition, he's a really smart guy, and he wrote this book. He wrote a couple editions of this book. I don't know if it's up to date. I don't think it's up to date with the latest version of C# language, but it still is worth a read. It covers in depth a lot of information about C Sharp. Not just, see, the thing about this book is it doesn't just cover, the language features. It covers why they exist, the alternatives, how they're implemented to some degree, all of the kind of just thought process behind all this stuff so that you really understand the language. That's why it's called C Sharp in Depth. After you read this book, you will feel like you understand C Sharp so much better. Like, I thought I had mastered C Sharp and I knew everything about it. And this book really took me deeper in a lot of areas that I hadn't taken the time to think about. John Skeet is very much a researcher. He's very meticulous. He just has this kind of style, and he teaches things in a very simple way. That's why he was so popular on Stack Overflow, so you can understand the things that he teaches. Very good teacher, very good book. Just, if you love C Sharp, you will love this book. That's all I got to say about that, okay? Now, let's move on to one I'm not as familiar with. The C Sharp Player's Guide. You can check this one out here. Again, this is one of the books that I am not extremely familiar with, but I have heard good things about this book, so I'm going to recommend that book here. I believe that this one was a good beginner's book. Then we have Pro C Sharp 5.0 and the .NET Framework. Another very good, you can check that one out here. Another very good comprehensive book, and it covers up to C Sharp 5.0, .NET 4.5 framework. So it's not quite up to date. The next one I'm going to give you is a little bit more up to date. But this book is another good beginner book. Actually, this one is not a beginner book. This one is more of an intermediate to advanced book. And it has a lot of recipes, a lot of ways for doing things that you can sort of copy and gain some experience with. It's got a lot of patterns that you could follow. So this is a really good book if you're already familiar with the language and you really want to take things to the next level and see specifically how to do some of the things in the newer language features and using the latest versions of the .NET Framework. Again, this is covering 5.0 and 4.5, so it's not quite there. I expect that a new version will be coming out soon. I hope so, that will be updated. But I do have another book for you that actually does go up. It's very hard to find books that are already that cover C Sharp 6.0 and .NET 4.6 framework, but I have here C Sharp 6.0 and the .NET 4.6 framework. That is the name of the book. It's such a clever name of a book, right? But you know what? It's a good book. It's highly reviewed. It's highly recommended. And this book is going to take you from beginning and learning the language all the way up to some of the advanced language features. A pretty big book, definitely one worth checking out. Highly recommend. Again, another book that I have not myself read, but as I was looking for the best books, the roundup, what people said, these are the best C Sharp books, that was on that list consistently. Next, a book that I have read, Design Patterns in C Sharp. Now, this is a hit or miss book. Some people really dislike this book. I really like the book. I felt like the cover was nice and crisp. It was just very nicely designed, just felt fresh. That's how I judge books. I judge books by the cover and how I open them up and how they smell when I open them up. If it just, if it smells good. And no, I'm kidding. But a lot of people didn't like the book. I like the book. I like the idea. See, the Gang of Four Design Patterns book, the original one, it's just not practical enough. Like, it's harder to digest and understand. So I appreciated seeing an actual C Sharp book that actually had the patterns implemented in C Sharp. It clicked with me better when I was very much a C Sharp developer, and it might with you. So I highly recommend the book. I think the author has done a brilliant job of implementing the patterns in C Sharp and making them pretty easy to understand. So if you understand C Sharp well and you want to understand design patterns, this is a good bridge to do that. Next, another book I have read, Effective C++. Or see how I slip? Effective C Sharp. You know why I said Effective C++? Because the next thing that I was going to say was that I love all the effective books. Ever since I got Effective C++, if you create a book in the language that I'm working in and you put effective in front of it, I'm going to buy that sucker because I just love that format. I love this format, and the author of this book, he modeled it after the original Effective C++ book, in that what he did was he did that same format of having these items. In Effective Java, it works the same way, but he did a really good job of saying, okay, these things you should do, these things you shouldn't do. Now, this book is slightly out of date because of some of the newer language features. There's a lot of stuff. Again, we're in this period of rapid changes in languages, but it's still good. This is another one of those books where you can look at this and you can see why things were done, and it'll actually help you to understand some of the newer language features that overcome some of these things. Now, some of these things are actually still applicable as a C# developer, but some of them aren't anymore. Use your judgment on that. Next up, more effective C#. Again, I've read this book. I thought it was great. I love the effectives here. What I gotta say? I'm a little bit biased with this top 10 list because I love the format of the effect. I feel like I learned so much when you tell me what not to do, when you show me, item by item. I love guidances and best practices, and that's what these books are. So they're like step by step, items, particular things that you should do, shouldn't do. Those kind of guidelines really help me to get a firm grasp of the language and how to idiomatically apply a language. That's why I like it so much. And I feel like you're getting a real expert's opinion on it rather than, I hate when people don't give their opinion, when they're just like, well, you could do it this way or some people do that. No, tell me, you're the expert, right? I don't have to agree with you, but tell me how it is. Tell me what I should and shouldn't do. That's what I try to do on this channel. Some of you don't like that, some of you do like that, but that's the style I enjoy. Different experts might have different opinions. That's fine, but I want it strong. Tell me it like you mean it. All right, and that's what the effective C# and more effective C# do. Finally, I saved a really good one for last here, because who's my favorite software development author aside from Scott Myers? It's Uncle Bob Martin. Of course, I got to include a Bob Martin book on here, and this one is Agile Principles, Patterns, and Practices in C#. It's such a good book. I read it more than once. I have to admit, I just love Bob's stuff. He's like my virtual mentor. He actually wrote, I can't believe this, if you haven't seen the story in here, he wrote the foreword for my book, for Soft Skills, Software Developer's Life Manual. If you haven't picked this up, pick this sucker up, right? This is my book. But he wrote the foreword in this, and this tells a story of how I got him to write the foreword. And it's kind of funny. I'm actually recording this video right now on his birthday, which is December 4th or 5th? December 4th. Wait a minute. I think my Garmin is always showing the wrong date and time. It is the 5th. My Garmin is showing the 4th. I asked him to write the foreword for my book. You can read the story in the book, but it's a pretty funny story. Now, to get to the actual book, Agile Principles, Patterns and Practices in C#. I believe that he wrote an original version of this book that was not C#, and then he wrote a C# version of it. I'm glad he did, because all of his examples are in C#. One of the best things in this book, if I recall correctly, is that he has a coding kata example of doing test-driven development. I guess it's a test-driven development example of implementing a bowling scoring application. And it's a great way to understand test-driven development if you haven't done that before. Really good information here on agile development, on a lot of patterns. This book is exciting to read. It was a page turner for me. I know some of you don't get that excited about C# books, but this one I really did, because I was so much into agile at the time. I was so much into C#, the test-driven development. He just so many different things. I believe this book has the solid principles in it. He covers just so many things that it was blowing my mind when I first read this book. And if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend that you get this book. All right, that's it. That is my list here of my top 10 C# books. Like I said, most of these books, I think about half of the books I read. I guess maybe there's like 3 or 4 that I haven't read that I found recommendations for, and I think those are the best, at least at the time of recording this video. If you've got suggestions, I want to hear them, so when I make a next version of this video, I can include them below, or I can include them in it. So just leave your comments below, and I hope that this is useful to you. If it is useful to you, or if you think it'll be useful to someone else, spread the love, share it. And if you like these kind of videos, if you want to get more of them, you want to get more videos that will help you in your career, help you in life. If you just like my biceps or this shirt, click the subscribe button below. I'll talk to you next time. Take care, and have a great day.